Hope my desktop is visible to all of you. Yeah. Just now send me an SMS if at all you are not able to see that and you're not able to listen to me. Okay. But otherwise, if I don't get anything, then it's clear that all of you are able to see the slides, right? Okay. With regarding to the projects that we did, have you done the classification of the images? So let me know. Run that program. So today we will discuss about some two important or three important applications of neural networks. Okay, already we discussed about classification of images using a neural network. I had also given you a small task. We will discuss about that at the end of this today's session. Then we will see how to do other important applications using neural network. Okay, we will discuss about that as well. So what I have done is I have built some images today. So let me show you those images. So these images, yeah. So I have written some numbers in paint. So I have taken almost around six different images for writing the numeral one. So called as 11.png, 12.png, 13, and so on. Then another six different ways of writing the number three. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This 3, 6. So we will see how to classify these images as 1 and 3. So for that we'll write a simple MATLAB program. So this is a program that will help us. Okay, just hold on. Okay. So this program I will post it once we complete this session. So let me explain you the program. So I'm trying to now read all the six images. As I said, there are six different ways of writing the numeral one. I'm reading that image, but it's a PNG image. And since it has been read, I'm storing it as IM data 1, data 2, 3, and so on. Similarly, you have another image, which is uh, IM data 7 to 12, but this number represents 3. The name of the image is 31, 32, 33, and so on. Then we have we are trying to convert those images from RGB to gray. So I'm using this command called RGB to gray to convert these images. After converting these images, okay, we have all the 12 images being converted. Then we are resizing that images to 16 cross 16. The reason it is 16 cross 16 is because okay, you can even make it as 32 cross 32. You can make it as 32, 64 cross 64. But it will take larger size. But now my memory in my RAM, RAM memory configuration is very low, so I don't want to burden the system. That's why I've just taken it as 16 cross 16. After resizing the image from whatever its size is to 16 or 16, then what we do is we convert that image from image to vector using this function called block to vector. So we are here, we are defining r equal to 16. So we are able to convert it from block to vector. So now we are able to get all the six images, and now for the number one, and six images for number three. Then we are defining an input called input one, wherein we are cascading all the six images column vectors. So IC1, IC2, IC3, 4, 5, 6. Input to another IC1, IC7 to IC12. So there's also been cascaded. So we have two input images. After cascading these images, we are now calling it as input 1, input 2. Then we are calling input A, and we are repeating input 1 several times. Almost 8 times it is repeated. Okay. So number one is repeated eight times. So why I are repeating it eight times? Because since we have very limited number of database, so I have only 6 images of number one. So I need at least 20, 30 images of number one. Okay. So I should keep drawing the number one in that paint, create 30 images. Okay. Instead of that, I'm taking the same images. Okay. I'm taking the same images from now I input one. Okay. Almost around it is repeated eight times. Okay. Similarly, in the input B, it is number three, again repeated multiple times. Then I'm setting a target as 0.2. Suppose if input one is, or if your input is number one, output to 0.2, and your input is 3, output to 0.8. Now what we are doing is, the target, whatever we have taken, we are also replicating it so that it matches with the number of inputs. Suppose if I apply input one, it should give me target one. Okay, input 2, target 1, again 0.2, 0.2, 0.2, and so on. Okay, then target B is target 2, because target 2 is 0.8 and it is referring to number 3. Yeah. So then what we do is, we are defining target as target A, target B, target A, target B. So I'm just now shuffling these targets now, A, B, A, B. Okay, input is A, B, A, B. Okay. So now you understand how much time the input has been repeated by just writing the simple program. Then what we do is, we are defining a neural network which now has, because your input size is 16 cross 16. Okay, so if you take 16 cross 16, when you convert from rows to columns, so it will now become 256 columns. Okay, so that means it will have now 256 elements in that column. So since it has 256 elements, so my network will have my input layer as 256 inputs, which will be first reduced to 100 output by using 100 neurons in the first hidden layer, and in the second hidden layer making it as 50, and in the third hidden layer we're making it as 1. Okay, because we need only one output, so you get it as 0.2 or 0.8. Then I'm using purely as the network activation function in all the three layers. Okay, even hidden layer 1, hidden layer 2, hidden layer 3, all of them are being defined with network activation functions called purely. Then I'm using the training function called train RT, which will speed up the process of training. Then I'm setting all the network training parameters. Then train the network, and we try to test the network. Okay. So let us run this and see whether this works. So first, let me run this input. Now if you see, I'm using this function called tools. The input image that we created is of size 195 cross 195 cross 3. Okay, and since there are 3 frames, it's a PNG image. Okay, so all of them are of the similar size. Then we try to convert that from RGB to gray. So here we are converting it from RGB to gray. So when you type converting from RGB to gray, so if you see again you type of tools, so the image will be now, instead of 3 frames, it will become only 1 frame. So it will be now RGB to gray data. It will all be now gray data. Then you resize the image. So when you do resizing using this IM resize, the image will be now shrunk from 195 cross 195 to 16 cross 16. So you see that the image has been now reduced to 16 cross 16. From 195 cross 195, it has been now reduced to 16 cross 16. Now you can use this command to see the image. Okay, but we will convert it from RGB to once it is converted from RGB to gray, we are able to resize the image. After resizing the image, we are now trying to convert from rows to columns. Now we know that each of the images of size 16 cross 16. So we are using this function block to vector and trying to convert those images from, okay, it's a 2D image to 1D. So we are converting from 2D vector to 1D data. When you do that conversion, let us see what happens to image size. Again, I'm typing this course. So if you now see the variables like IC1, IC2, IC3, so IC1, IC2, IC3, all of them are now 256 cross 1. Okay, so you will have now 256 cross 1 matrix representing numeral 1, and another 256 cross 1 matrices representing number 3. Okay. Then what we do, we try to concatenate all of them. So we are creating these inputs. Input A, input 1 and input 2. So if you see now whose input 1, it is of size 256 cross 6, because now there are 6 ones, 6 images of ones, but now it has been converted from 2D to 1D. We are able to now make it as this data. Yeah. So now it has become 256 cross 6. Okay. Yes. Then we again repeat this data, because we don't have too many training network or images available. So we start repeating this data by defining it as another variable called input A and input B. Now if you see whose input A and input B, it is 256 cross 48. That means there are 256 cross 48 number of ones that are available with us right now for all this process. Okay. Now, once we do that, we are setting the target. So, the target is also defined as 0.2 and 0.8. So, we are run this target. The target is also set. Then we are preparing a new kind of a target called target and input. So, this will be used for training the network. Okay, so we are defining that also. Yeah. Then, as I said, we are trying to invoke a feed forward network consisting of 10 neurons in the first hidden layer, 50 neurons in the second hidden layer, and 1 neuron in the output layer. And we are defining it as 1 basically because this 1 implies this 0.2. Okay, output to 0.2 if it is 1, output to 0.8 if your number is 3. And we also tell that yes, all of them are purelin, 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 and we are using a training function as well. So the network is set. Once the network is set, then we'll start the training process. Before setting the training process, we'll set certain parameters like the constraint as 2000 epochs, and the mean square error as 1 e power minus 12. Then we train the network. So once you start training the network, you find that the network is getting trained, and using this, let us understand what the network is all about. So if you see here, the input, there are 256 inputs, one output. Hidden layer has 100 neurons, second hidden layer has 50 neurons, third hidden layer has 1 neuron. Okay. Yeah, we are using the training as rapid propagation training, and performance calculations are also set. And if you click on this graph here, performance, you find that you will be able to generate multiple plots. So these plots will define whether your network is working fine or not. If you see the network performance here, now we had set the target as this, okay, and we had set 2000 epochs. So the mean square error initially was very high; it was around 10 power 10. But as we started updating the weights of the matrix because of the back propagation training, the mean square error has reduced to very low value, and it is almost meeting the requirements of the target. See, in our example, we had set the target mean square error to be 1 e power minus 12. That was the requirement what we had set. The 1 e power minus 12 is almost somewhere down to this. So it is able to reach that error of 1 e power minus 12 after 450 epochs. But our requirement was 2000 epochs. So it is able to meet the requirement, so the training has been stopped. So you can even see regression plot. Regression plot will now define, okay, whatever target you wanted to achieve and the output. Okay, so regression, if it is equal to 1, it implies whatever target you had intended for, the same you are able to achieve at the output. Suppose if it is not equal to 1, if it is less than 1, 0.8, 0.9, 0.99 and so on, that means okay, whatever target you intended to achieve, okay, you are not able to reach the output because the network is not completely trained. Okay, so you need to understand this is another very important metric for your neural network logic. Then you also have the training plots. So if you see, it is gradient and epoch. At 456 epoch, it is able to reach the required gradient, and error is also equal to 0. So these are all the performances of your network. Okay? So now we'll try to minimize this, and then we'll see once because training has been done, we will now test the data. What we will do, we'll apply first an input image IC1. Okay, that means your first image is first input is 1, and see whether it is able to give you 0.2. So we'll try to simulate it. Now if you understand, net underscore C1 is the initial network without training parameters. Net underscore S1 is the network with all the training parameters. So we are using that net underscore S1 as the trained network, and we are giving an input called IC1, that is the first vector, and we are trying to find out whether output A1 is equal to 0.2. Okay. So now it is telling you, yes, it is no, your input is exactly 0.2, implies it is able to classify your input as 1. Okay. Now let us see whether we can see it is going to give you 3 as 0.8. So 3 is 7, IC7 or IC8. So let us see whether you are able to get this results properly. So it is exactly telling that yes, it is classified it as 0.8, implying that yes, the input whatever you are going to provide, okay, it is able to tell whether it is 1 or 3. If at all output is 0.2, it is giving you as 1. If your output is 0.8, it is telling it is output as 3, input as 3. So it is able to classify the data 1 and 3 depending upon the images whatever we have considered. Now this is how we test the network. Now let us see what are the network parameters. So if I just go to MATLAB net underscore S1, if I type it, you see that it is going to give you all these parameters. Okay. Yeah, now let us see what are the weights and biases of the network. So net underscore S1 dot IW. Okay. Input weight and biases 1 comma 1. Okay. Input weight, okay, is given by an expression called IW. So I'm using IW and just type 1 comma 1. You find that these are all the weights of the input matrix. Okay. Hidden weight 1. Okay. Now if you see, there are 3 hidden layers. Okay. Hidden layer 1, hidden layer 2 and output layer. Okay. There are 3 hidden layers. Now since there are 100 neurons in the first hidden layer, so I want you to understand this thoroughly. Okay. So let me open the slide here. So this is the network that now we are trying to see here. We have taken input as 256. Then we have first hidden layer, second hidden layer, third hidden layer. But here we are having a 4 hidden layer, no 4 layer network. In our network, what we have is the following. Okay. So input size is 256 cross 1 is input size, and output of first hidden layer. First hidden layer is 100 cross 1. Okay, because it produces first output as 100 cross 1. Okay. Now when you provide 100 inputs, the number of outputs that you produce from the second hidden layer is 50 cross 1. Okay, then output from output layer is 1 cross 1. Okay, so now if you see 256 cross 1 input is now used to generate 100 cross 1 output in the first hidden layer, then 50 cross 1 in the second hidden layer, and 1 cross 1 in the third hidden layer. To do this, we need to understand what are the mathematical operation that is happening. Now, since the output is 100 cross 1, okay, output is 100 cross 1, okay, your input size is basically 256 cross 1. This is the input size. Okay, this is the size of the input. Now, you are actually multiplying it with a weight matrix of W. Okay. So when you multiply your input with the weight matrix of W, you are generating an output of 100 cross 1 in the first hidden layer. So what should be the size of this weight matrix now? Okay. So if at all you want to make now to 256 1 as 100 cross 1, what should be the size of this weight matrix? So what should be the size of the weight matrix now? So I'll shift this W on the right hand side or left hand side. So what should be the size of the weight matrix now? So if you multiply this, so you should know that yes, you have to match the rows and columns. So the weight matrix will be of size 100 cross 256. So if you take the row number of columns here will be equal to number of rows. So that when you multiply the weight matrix of 100 cross 256 with 256 cross 1, then the number of columns and number of rows match. So output is going to be 100 cross 1. Okay. Now what happens in the second layer? The second layer is your input is of size, okay, your output is what you are getting is 50 cross 1 is the output size. Okay. Then your weight matrix we have to find out, but your input size is 100 cross 1. Your input size is 100 cross 1. So what is the size of the weight matrix? How many weights do you need? So this weight should be now equal to 50 cross 100. Okay. So when you multiply 50 cross 100 matrix with 100 cross 1, your output will become 50 cross 1. Similarly, the output layer, your output is going to be of size 1 cross 1. And you have to now find out what will be your input size. But your weight input size is for the second output layer is 50 cross 1. Okay, this is the size of the input. Now to convert 50 cross 1 to 1 cross 1, this matrix size should be 1 cross 50. Okay. So this is how the simple mathematics works out in converting or classifying the image. So now to know what are the weights, 100 cross 256 weights, so what I will do is I have gone to MATLAB. So I'll type hidden layer 1 weight is equal to, okay, net underscore S1 dot IW 1 comma 1. Okay. So now all the weights are assigned to H1, your hidden layer 1 weights. Then if I type size of HI 1W, it is 100 cross 256. And what you see on the top, these are all the 100 cross 256 weights of the first hidden layer. Okay. Now see what are the outputs, weights and biases of the second one. If you want to see even the biases, again net underscore S1, this type, it is IW. You can open up IW by just clicking there. You will know that there are multiple weights. You can read this document and see what is this going to explain you about your net property. Okay. Yeah. But let us go back to the program. Yes. Now to see what are the biases that are available, okay, for the first hidden layer. So we will use the function net underscore S1 dot B of 1. These are all the biases. So there are 100 neurons. So you'll have that 100 biases now. Okay, these are all the biases. And to find out what will be the number of weights in the second hidden layer, so net underscore s1 dot lw 1 comma 1 2 comma 1. These are all the weights of the second hidden layer. To find out the weights of the third output layer, again use this function 2 comma 2. Comma. Yeah, these are the biases of the output layer. So there are 50 neurons in the output layer. So you'll be able to find out all the biases over there. Okay. So like that, you identify all the weights and biases of the network. Okay. Yeah. So now this program is able to classify the numerals 1 and 3, and you're able to get point 2 and point 8. Okay. Yeah. Now let us know. You have any queries at this point of time? Yeah, if at all you have followed this program, it's fine. Or if at all you have any other doubts, please let me know. Did you follow this program? What we just discussed? Anybody, please unmute yourself and give me an answer. Sujay, are you there online? Sujay. Okay then. So now suppose if you have understood this, then it is fine. We will go to the next program. Okay, so you will be assigned your projects today, and I wanted you to work on those projects and make sure that you submit the projects by next week, or maybe you can take some 10 days time. So before 10 days, I wanted you to submit the project along with the report. I will try to give the guidelines also for you to submit the project reports. Okay, so according to that, you have to submit the project reports as well. Okay, yes. I wanted to talk to Sujay. Sujay, are you there? What about Sampada? Sampada, are you there online? Yeah. Have you completed all the assignments? Anybody else? Any doubt you have, please let me know so that we'll be able to sort out all these things, concepts, and then get into the project mode. So what we discussed today was we just try to tell you how to write a simple Verilog code, sorry, your neural network code, neural network program to classify the image. So I have taken 4-layered network, input layer, two hidden layers, and one output layer. And network activation function is all time pure link. and we were able to classify the image as point 0.2 and point 0.8. So if at all I apply input as numeral 1, it tells me as point 0.2, and if I apply numeral numeral 3, it is telling us point 0.8. That means it is able to classify the network according to our requirements. And I showed you how to identify the trained weights and biases of the network. Okay, so that is what we have done for today. Now, what else we can do? How else we can modify this simple program? So let us go back to the code here. Yeah. So now what we will do is, this is the program that is here. Let us see how to modify the program. So this is a very important aspect that I want all of you to understand. So the concept here is we are setting it as input A and input B. Okay, this is all fine. Now the target, whatever we had set, so what we will do is I will comment all these targets. It is taking some time, so I'm trying to remove the targets. I'm trying to now illustrate what else can this be network be used for. Okay, so now I'm removing also inputs are known to us. So there are how many inputs now? We are taking two images, numeral 1 and numeral 3. So these are the images that I have taken. Okay. Now what we will do is, now input is input A, input B, input A, input B. Target I will make it as input. Okay. So whatever is the input that we have used as the input, that itself is made as the target. Okay. So target is also equal to input. So what is the logic right now? What we are trying to do is we have taken a network. After taking this network, okay, neural network, which is a multi-layered network, input is applied to the network. Then the output, we whatever we want is also to be input itself. Whatever input is applied, we are trying to generate the output as well. So output is what we expect is the input itself. That is why we are setting target as input. Then what we will now do is here, since we know the input is 256 inputs after converting it from 2D to 1D. Okay, so we will take this number here, okay, and I will change this number. So 256 inputs, I will make that 256 inputs to 150 in the first hidden layer, and 20 in the second hidden layer, and in the output layer I will make it as 256. Why I am making it as 256? Because my input is equal to the target, so I want the output to be also equal to 256, but my input is 150 and 20, or I'll simply make it as 20 now. Okay, so I'm just having only three layers: input layer, hidden layer, output layer. In the hidden layer, there are only 20 neurons in the hidden layer. So 256 neurons will be processed, and in the first hidden layer, you will be generating 20 outputs, and that 20 outputs will be given to your 256, output layer to generate 256 outputs. Since there are only two layers, I'll remove one of the transfer functions here. I'm removing one of the transfer functions. Okay. Then we will start doing the training activity here. After performing the training activity, we'll again simulate it, see whether your input is equal to output. Now, let us see what are we trying to do actually here. Okay. Because your input is 20, hidden layer input neuron is, hidden layer size is only going to be 20. Okay, now let us see what is going to happen. So let me go back to this. Yeah. So we are trying to now design a network wherein you have 256 inputs, and the first hidden layer is having only 20 neurons, so you'll be able to get 20. Then the output layer is 256, so let us not assume that this is all not there. Okay. So 256 inputs are available, which are now processed by 20 neurons to get 20 outputs. These 20 inputs at this point are further processed by 256 neurons at the output to get back 256 outputs. Now we are trying to see the input itself is made as target. So when you start training the network, okay, the weights and biases are going to be identified, and you will get this. Once the network is completely getting trained, what we will do is we will try to split this entire data. So what is meant by splitting this data now? Splitting network. So according to the discussion that we had just now, the modification that we did in the neural network program. See, I'm not using this output. This is all not there. This is all, I'm just removing it. This is not there. Okay. Now there are 20 neurons here. There are 20 neurons in the hidden layer and 256 neurons in the output layer and 256 neurons in the input layer. Now we set input itself as target and then start training. Weights and biases of the network are identified. Then, okay, once the training is done successfully, we will cut this network at this point. Okay? And we will define this as encoder. We will define it as encoder, and we will define it as decoder. This will be decoder. Sorry, encoder and decoder. So what happens in encoder and decoder now? So you're taking 256 inputs and you're identifying 20 significant features of the input 256. Using these 20 features, you're able to reconstruct 256 features. So this would be the logic that will be used at the receiver or the decoder. This will be the logic that will be available at the encoder. So what happens? The output, whatever you get at the intermediate stage, will represent the features of the image, using which we can further reconstruct all the 256 pixels. So this is another important activity wherein you are using the neural network for feature extraction. Okay, you're trying to pass 256 images, and then you are extracting 20 features. Using the 20 features, you are again reconstructing 256 original features. So this becomes a feature extraction process for a neural network. Okay, this concept we call as auto encoders. We're calling it as auto encoders because you're able to encode and decode the data by setting input itself as a target. So we call this concept as auto encoders. Okay? So neural network is used for even feature extraction process. Okay. Now, if I go back to the program. I can further reduce this 20 to 10. So instead of having having 256 inputs, I will now extract only 10 features, and I'll again from 10 I'll reconstruct 256 features. Again, it depends upon the training. Okay. So now you can see how many features you want to reduce. So this will ensure that your dimensionality is basically going to get reduced in terms of network training. This is another important applications of neural network, which will also be used for compressing an image. Okay. So this is also one of the important activity that could be taken up in your neural network project. Okay. Yes. So let me stop here, and I'll ask you whether you follow this. So today we discussed about two important things. Just by changing the number of neurons in the hidden layer and output layer, you're able to convert a neural network architecture into a classifier or an autoencoder. In classifier, you will have only one output at the output of the network, so that you're able to classify the image as 1 and 3. And in autoencoder, the number of inputs will be equal to number of neurons in the output layer, but the number of neurons in the hidden layer will be much less than the number of neurons in the input. So what happens now? You're able to compand, or you're able to compress the data, okay, and you're able to extract the most significant features from the given input image, and then using the significant features, you're able to extract the required set of data. So you are able to use your neural network as feature extractor, or you can even compress your data. So this is another significant advantage of using neural networks. Okay, so have you followed these concepts today, the program? Vikram Shankar, idirapa, net online, are you there on the line? What about Tanya? Are you there? Tanya? Sneha Singh, Sneha, Rahul, Nishchit Gowda. Veerappa, Ellaro. Okay, have you understood the programs today? How we are using neural networks for classification and encoding and decoding activity? You have understood, just tell yes, no means no. Okay. See, neural network is a very important concept in your complete your thing, because everybody is now trying to learn machine learning, artificial intelligence, but the fundamentals for all of them is neural networks. Okay, today they are starting a separate branch on machine learning and AI. Okay, so you see the importance of neural networks. Okay, so if at all you know what is the basic logic there, so just what I discussed, it's you should now know how many neurons, types of neurons, what is the network activation function, and what is the training algorithm. If you can know these things, it is easy for you to take up projects into machine learning or artificial intelligence. Okay, so for every ML and AI, or particularly AI, NN becomes the fundamental component. So today I've just told you how to use NN, the basics of NN, to get into the concepts of AI, artificial intelligence. Okay. Now once this is done, we will go to next work. So today we will also discuss one more important project, that is transformation of your images. Okay. So here what we have done is, just tell you what is this logic is all about. So let us first see what the image is all about. So I'll run this code. So this is a simple image that we have generated called as checkerboard. Okay, and using this concept called 10 comma 2. So there will be 10 rows, and so if you define this 10 comma 2, you'll have a square matrix generated called as the checkerboard. Okay. Now what we will do is we will define certain parameters called scale. Okay, scale is defined as 1.2. Theta is defined as 40 degrees, 40 pi by 8, and translation shifting across x-axis is 0 and y-axis is 0, and we will define the scaling as scale, okay, 1.2 into cos of angle, scale into cosine of angle, and we will define a matrix called T, and we'll see what is this going to do. Yeah, so this matrix T, whatever we have taken, it's having a value of this, yeah, 0.9193. So 0.9193 implies SC, which is your scaling multiplied by the theta. Okay, so 0.9193, then minus SS, SC. So this is the format in which you provide the scaling and rotational activity. Then what you do is you define a function called affine 2D. You are performing a concept called affine transformation of T. So when you do it, so you generate a variable called T non sim. Using that T non sim, you are performing some small wrapping operations for your image I. Okay. So you are trying to use image I. Your image I is checkerboard, and you are using the T non sim parameters that you generated using affine 2D transform. Okay. Let us see what happens because of this. Then if you try to display the image, see, if you see here, the image that we had originally generated was, what is this original image? This original image has now been translated, or it has been rotated by a factor of 40. Okay. So it is now rotated by an angle of 40 degrees, okay, the anti-clockwise direction, and that rotation of an image is carried out by using these simple functions. So we are using a function called affine transform and IM wrap. Okay. Yes. Let us take one more example. So here again the same image I is taken, but we are defining 1.5 and angle as 10 degrees. Then let us see what happens to this. Again, we'll do affine transformation of the parameters. After that, we'll do IM wrap and see what happens to the image. So the image has now been rotated by a factor of 10 degrees. Okay. See, this is the original image. The original image is being rotated by a factor of 10 degrees in the anti-clockwise direction, because now the reference axis is now taken as x-axis. So the image has been rotated by a factor of 10 degrees. Okay, it just rotated by a factor of 10 degrees. Okay. Let us take one more example wherein we have defined t as no 1.3 and so on. Let us see what happens to this. Okay. So here the scaling is also done, sharing is also done. So if you see the image is all, no, it's actually shared. Okay, in the sense it is compressed. So by using this function is called affine transform and IM warp, you can do multiple transformations of a given image. You can rotate the image, you can translate the image, you can scale the image. Okay, you can do multiple activities, but you should use a function called affine 2D and IM warp. Now let us take an image here. We have taken an image called out, and we'll provide theta no, rotation of 10 degrees and see how that image would look like. Okay, so the original image is this, but it has been now rotated by an angle of 10 degrees. So you can perform rotations of images, share scaling of images by these factors. Now, why are we discussing this is because there's a very important concept that we need to understand. So to do that, we are trying to discuss this very important concept called image transformations. So now we will discuss the concept of IM registration, that is called as image registration. Okay? What is the meaning of image registration? So image registration is a very, very important factor in image processing. Okay. So assume that you are trying to capture an image using a camera, and you have captured that image from a camera. From assume that you are trying to see the image, camera is positioned in front of the image, you are able to capture the image. So when you capture that image from one angle, you will be able to see all the features. Assume that second day you come, but the position, where you were able to stay and capture the image of the day one is changed by a bit. Maybe you are trying to shift, you are trying to move your position by a small quantity towards left or right or whatever it is. Again, you take the image. So what happens when you try to take these two images? Both images are actually same, but because of the position from where you are able to capture the image, the features of this image may be different. So your computer will tell that both of them are two different images. Okay. So now why is this image process, image registration very important? So image registration is, suppose that you are trying to take the image using your visible cameras. So you'll be able to see all the visible data. Okay, now the same image you are taking using thermal data, thermal images. So when you see thermal images are going to capture the heat intensity available at that particular location. So whenever you say the heat intensity, okay, usually human body will be very hot, okay, and then if you take the metal parts available with the human body, they may all be having different heat concept. So what happens now? You will recognize the metal objects available within the human body. Okay, for example, I'm holding a gun below my shirt. Okay, so that metal, that gun will be available, will be visible if I take a thermal image. Okay, but that gun will not be visible if I take a visible image, because the gun is now hidden behind the shirt. So what happens to try to see whether the person who is having the gun? So you have to take first image, second image, and you try to fuse these two images. When you try to fuse these two images, the gun is actually located below your behind the shirt, and it is below your maybe it is near the chest. Okay, for example, it is below the chest. The gun is below the chest. Okay. Now what happens is when you take the whenever the two images are taken at two different angles, and when you try to superimpose it, when you superimpose those two images, okay, the thermal image may tell that yes, the gun is not below the chest. It may be it is there. It is above the stomach. So we need to now know where the metal objects are exactly located, and that is where we are supposed to register the image. And after registering the image, we are supposed to fuse the image. So there are two important concepts in image processing called image registration and image fusion. Okay. Let me tell you this, illustrate this with a simple example. Tomorrow we'll discuss about the mathematical concepts. So I'm just trying to show you one image. Okay, let us see this image. So this is the image, maybe no, it's an aerial image we have taken, and you see that there's a flyover there. There's a road, the rail. There is a no flyover here. Then the road, if you see, it's going like this, coming out of this, and then there's a road going to merge here. Okay, then you see there's a building here. Then there's a building also here. But then there's a bigger building here. Okay, there are multiple intersections here. So this is the image what we have. Okay, now let us take the same image at a different interval of time at different no, angle. So this is the second image that you see. This is the second image. This is first image. Now, if you see the difference here, okay, both of them are actually the same, but no, there is difference between these two images. So what are the differences now? Okay, the first difference is, see, the road starts from the top of this, image here. But the road, whatever you see here, is actually from this point. That means there's a shift in the image because the angle is shifted. Because you may be traveling in a micro air vehicle or maybe no air vehicle. So what happens? The angle in which you try to travel, again, accordingly, the images are being captured. If you see the intersection here, the intersection is actually you're able to see even the width of the road after intersection, but here you're not able to see that. Okay, and now if you see the intersection point from the top, this is located now some 100 pixels down, but here it is located only 50 pixels down. So that means this is taken a different time interval. This is a different time interval. That means there is some variations between these two images. So we need to register these two images, okay? So that we'll be able to identify what is the location of this building. Okay? Because this is at maybe today we have taken this image, or maybe not. It's been taken 10 days back. Today the aircraft is flying, and this is the image what we find. Now we need to know the location of this building, or the location of the building. So we need to superimpose these two images. So you have to perform a process called image registration. Image registration is a process of aligning two images taken at two different time intervals. Okay, so we need to identify the features in that image, and depending upon the features in the image, we have to align these two images. So to do that, we perform a process called image registration. Okay, so there is a function in MATLAB called IMShowPair. So if you see this IMShowPair, okay, I'm running this. I reference is the first image. I unregistered the second image, and we are trying to display both images. So if we try to display both images, you see that there is some kind of disturbance in both the images. See, two images have been superimposed. One image has a road here, one other image is having a road here. The intersection is here, the intersection we find somewhere here. The building is here, the building is somewhere there. So there are misalignment of these images. So we need to perform the process called registration. To perform this process called registration, there is a function called IM register available in MATLAB. We'll discuss the mathematical concepts tomorrow, but to use this IM register inbuilt function available in MATLAB called IM register, you have to define two important parameters called optimizer and metric. So now this optimizer and metric, we are defining it using a function called image reconfig. Okay. So by using this image reconfig and setting certain parameters for optimizer and your other things, okay. So we are trying to tell that yes, these are the settings that we are supposed to use for using this function called IM register. So to the IM register, we are giving this unregistered data as well as the reference data, and then using a function called affine transform and using the parameter called optimizer and metric, we are trying to perform registration. So when I run this code, so you get the registered image now. Okay. Let us see what is the registered image. So we'll try to go figure. I am sure. Okay. Register. So this is the registered image that we get. This is the registered image. This is the original image. Then we'll also see what is this images. and the deformed image. So figure 8 is a deformed image. Figure 5 is the reference image, and this is the figure 8. Figure 8. This is registered image. This is the input reference image, the deformed image, and the registered image. Okay, so now if you see this logic here, we are able to perform the registration, but no, it may not be exactly registering because now you have to change multiple settings over there. But you can even estimate what will be the registration, so you can just superimpose these two data. So this is what we get after registering the images. So this is the superimposing of these two images, which are all unregistered, but this is the images after registration. But here what we are doing is we are just trying to write a simple program called IAM register. Okay, now there are multiple settings that we are supposed to change here so that you are able to get complete registration of the images. Okay, so we will discuss about the mathematical concepts in the next class. But today we just understood what is the concept of IAM registration. Okay. So this we will stop this session at this point. Then we'll discuss about the projects. Okay. Yes. Okay. So now, dear students, did you follow what is image registration? So let me repeat it. There are two images taken at two time intervals. Because it has been taken at two different time intervals, there will be a lot of misalignment between those two images. So to make sure that you get all the features from the images, you perform a simple image processing algorithm called IAM registration. Okay. So that function is called IAM register that will help us in registering two images that are not aligned. So this will happen considering the features available in the given image. So the mathematical concepts, what is behind this, we will discuss in the next class. But I know I just introduced you to concept of image registration. Then one more concept is there that is called image fusion. We will also discuss about that in the next class. Understanding what is the mathematics behind image registration and image fusion. Okay, yes. So we will stop at this point of time, and then if at all you have any doubt, we will continue. Otherwise, we will stop. Okay. Any queries you have, I will follow the concepts that we discussed today. Hello. Okay, all of you have submitted assignments. See, according to me, okay, so now if you have understood the concepts, so I will assign you certain tasks today as well as the projects. So you'll be given 10 days of time to complete those projects. And then now, based upon that, we will also assign you certain marks. We'll be able to evaluate your performances. Okay, so we'll also grade your performances as A, B, C, D, and then accordingly we will be able to give you the certificates also. Okay. Now to get your certificates, it is mandatory that you complete the project and also submit minimum 75% of the assignments. Okay. So then only you will be eligible to get your certificates. And those who are submitted late, we will consider that also. Okay. And those who are not submitted, we'll again keep giving you certain warnings. And after that, you'll be asked to submit the assignments. Okay, yeah. So this is status according to my data. So all the things will be evaluated and it will be sent back to you. Okay. Yes. Now, any doubts you have with regarding to the concepts what we discussed today and all the previous classes? Any queries if you have, please ask me. We will go ahead with this. Otherwise, we will stop at this point of time. Okay. Fine then. So let us stop here. Okay. So we will discuss about the concepts in the next